Hello, my beautiful, beautiful bookish besties. I am reacting to Reddit's book Icks again. This is the second time, part 2. Even though the first time I did it, I got 5 views. It was my worst performing video on this channel, but it was just a fun time. And I want to have fun on this channel, not just do stuff for views, so I'm doing it again. So let's begin. I think 20 to react to. Mangered Cat doesn't like when smut doesn't add to the storyline like most Colleen Hoover books. I do like some smut, even if it doesn't add to the plot. I feel like it's a fun time. But even for me, there comes a point when it's too much. If it's in every chapter, it becomes repetitive and redundant, and it's just not necessary. I'm not finding it exciting anymore. But also, some of my favorite books are very smutty, like Twisted Hate. I love Kiss the Sky's my favorite book ever, very smutty. So obviously, I like smut, but there does come a point where it's too much, and I don't like smut if there's no emotional connection. I need that emotional intimacy for it to hit. Otherwise, I'm not gonna really like the book, and I'm not gonna be invested in the couple if that's all there is to it, is the physical aspect. I do want that emotional connection. But if there's like some smutty scenes that aren't really adding to the storyline, I don't care because I'm having a good time. Just not too much of them. Otherwise, it's no longer a good time. Xylophone Zygote, interesting name, does not like when the good characters are skinny and the evil characters are overweight. Definitely agree with this one. That's very problematic. I can't think of a book that does this, but it reminds me of an essay I wrote in high school. I wrote about how Ariel and all the other human characters in The Little Mermaid, the good characters, they're all skinny or muscular. They all have bodies that society considers to be the ideal body, and then Ursula is plus size. I think she's the only plus size character. And it's just not right, because people might start to unconsciously start associating skinny with people with good, or skinniness with good, and overweight people and obesity with bad. So I just don't like that. But I can't think of a book that does this. I'm just thinking of Little Mermaid, because I did do an essay on that. Haley Beth 7 says, I hate when books have deckled edges on the pages. It just feels awful to my fingers, and I'm someone who fidgets while I read by flicking the pages, and it's hard to do that with deckled edges. Took the words right out of my mouth. It is disgusting. I hate deckled edges. Story time. I was at the thrift store once, and there was a book there. Don't remember the name of it, but I read the blurb and it sounded so interesting, but it had deckled edges. I picked that book up so many times, and then I put it back on the shelf. It literally sounded so good, but I hate reading books with deckled edges. My sister was with me, and she was getting so annoyed. She was like, just get it. It's $2. But I left without it in the end because it bothers me so much. I went to that store again 2 weeks later, and it was still there, and I did the same thing. I picked it up, and I was like, should I just read it? Should I just get it because it sounds so good? But then I put it back on the shelf because I cannot stand deckled edges. I like seeing how smooth the pages look when they're all lined up as you're reading. It just looks so satisfying to me. And I also like running my fingers down the pages as I'm reading, and it's weird to me when they don't align. It's just, oh my gosh, it just bothers me. I don't know why. I can't deal with it. It drives me nuts. Definitely agree with Haley on this one. When the main character, especially when told in first-person point of view, is super negative and judgmental of others for no real reason. I had my first experience with this recently and had to DNF after a few pages. Same. I hate it. It drives me crazy. I'm thinking of Tate from, what's the book called? Bully. Tate from Bully by Penelope Douglas, and Hannah from The Deal I read kind of recently, and that was the same thing. Just let people be. Hey, how about leave people alone, let them live their own lives? Because it's none of your business. I get so defensive of the characters they're judging, even if it's just a minor character whose name we don't even know, because shut up, just let people be. It annoys me, and it also makes me dislike the main character, because mind your business. I don't like judging people. Ironic how I'm judging people for being judgy, but it's annoying. Cut it out. When you buy a book and there's a dead spider, ant, or fly between the pages, oh my goodness, I'm about to throw up just thinking about it. I got a book at a little free library a few weeks ago that had dead ants between the pages, and I didn't notice until I was back in the car. It's the way I was physically cringing so hard. I hate bugs. When I see a bunch of them grouped up like that, I feel like I can feel them crawling on me, and it's just, like, I'm literally shivering right now. I didn't end up reading the book. I moved the ants out. I took some toilet paper and removed them, but even without them there, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the thought of reading the book, knowing that a bunch of ants were just in it, it made me feel ill. So I just ended up taking it to another little free library, and I never read it. Yeah, so definitely agree with you on this one. It's disgusting. when the main characters are super sexual, like lusting over their love interests in really crude, creepy ways. Like, please, I'm looking for tension, not the inner monologue of some horn dog. Yeah, I feel that. Obviously sexual attraction exists for most people, that's normal, but sometimes it's really creepy. Like if they have binoculars, absolutely not. Or they're a peeping Tom, like looking through her window, looking through the crack in the door. I don't like when that is made to be something romantic. It's not, it's just weird. And I've actually read that in a lot of romance books. They'll be like looking at the character through the crack in the door and like masturbating. That's so disgusting. Or looking through the window. It's ew. And there's also a time and place. I feel like sometimes in some scenarios when they're lusting after the other person, it's just gross. At a funeral, for example, I don't need to hear about how he's thinking about how attractive she looks in her black dress and how the black dress hugs her curves when her dead grandpa's in the coffin right next to her. It's just weird. And I feel like some authors make it a thing in scenes where it's just creepy and gross and disrespectful, I guess. I don't know. I mean, obviously people feel sexual attraction sometimes when in situations like that, you can't help that, but I don't like it in my books. It just kind of grosses me out, and I don't need to hear about every minuscule detail about her breasts. It just kind of icks me out, and it makes me feel like, is that how guys are looking at me? I don't know, it just kind of scares me sometimes when I'm reading it. It's just way too much. You know what I mean? Like, I remember Beautiful Bastard by Christina Lauren. I just feel like those characters were always lustful, and I didn't like the book because it was just too sexual, not as much emotional. But like I said, like obviously sexual attraction exists, and I don't mind if they are lusting after each other sometimes, but not all the time. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. I hope that made sense. I feel like I was kind of running in circles with that explanation, but I hope you get what I was trying to say there. The 75% mark, where the couple's happy and then something has to go wrong about 75% of the way in. I'll read it, but I'm so bored of the predictability sometimes. Same. Definitely agree with this one. A lot of the time, the third act conflict is so stupid and unnecessary and doesn't go along with anything the characters have been saying or doing. Up until that point, the authors are just doing it for an added conflict, and I understand that. Books need a little bit of drama to make them interesting and engaging, but yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I prefer when there's a conflict and they're working together to combat it instead of working against each other. I definitely prefer that. I always get excited when the authors don't have them break up and just let them live happily ever after. And everyone should take notes from Maria Zapata because she does the opposite of this. She never has third act breakups, at least not in the books I've read from her. And also, another thing, sometimes I will be shipping the couple so hard. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're perfect for each other. They're love them. Couple goals. And then the third act conflict will happen, and I will all of a sudden not ship them because it's so out of character and so stupid, and they're not communicating, and I'm like, would they actually make it? Like, it makes me doubt everything I just read. So, not a fan of it. When ellipses are used excessively, yeah, this didn't start bothering me until 2 months ago. I read The Love Hypothesis, and there were ellipses on every page, at least 3 sets of them, 2 sets of them. It was kind of taking away from the story a little bit because I'd get to the top, I'd get to a new page, and then I'd scan the page and I'd start counting the ellipses because there was so much. I don't think we went a single page without a set of ellipses, and it did start to bother me. But that's never something that's really bothered me before. It's a new development because I remember when I read Harry Potter, like I noticed there were a lot of ellipses, but I didn't mind it at all. I just read it. I was having a good time. I love that series. But with The Love Hypothesis, it bothered me a lot. And obviously, don't mistake my words and think I'm critiquing the author, because obviously Ellie Hazelwood is so huge and a lot of people like her writing style and she's very talented. Yeah, I just personally don't love it, but a lot of people do. So no hate to Ellie Hazelwood as an author or J.K. Rowling as an author. They can write so much better than I can. That's their style of writing, and a lot of people appreciate it because they're both huge. I'm not trying to diss their writing. I'm just acknowledging that it's not for me personally. Okay. When dialogue blends together and I can't figure out who said what. Yes, this annoys me so much. It's only happened to me once. It happened when I read Pride and Prejudice. It's never happened to me before, and I hope it never happens again because it was so annoying. I had to keep rereading, looking for name tags. I was just getting so confused on who was speaking and when. I hope it never happens again. That was honestly really annoying. Definitely agree with you on this one. I sort of dislike when the book is named after the protagonist, just the worst kind of title. I don't know about worst kind. That's kind of a bold claim. I definitely think there's worse titles, but I don't like it either. Because it's just kind of boring. Why would I go to the bookstore and pick up a book with the title Tom when the book right next to it is Daughter of Smoke and Bone? That sounds so much cooler. You know, it's just boring. It's not gonna make me grab it and look into it. Whereas a cool title, I would look into it, you know? So it's kind of a disservice to the book. 'Cause the book could be amazing. It'd be so good. Tom could be such a good book, but I'm never gonna look into it because the title is so lame. The one book I just thought of, I read Lore by Alexander Bracken, and that's one of my favorite fantasy books. And the title is the character's name. I didn't realize that at first. I thought it referred to mythological lore, but it's actually the main character's name. I was a little disappointed when I found that, honestly, because it does bother me. I don't know why. It's not a big deal in hindsight, but it does. It's just boring. I don't know. I want a creative, cool, unique title. But it's not a big deal, I feel like. I'm just being dramatic. Lore was a great book. And there are probably a lot of great books with the main characters' names. Maybe comment down below, because honestly I don't pick those books up ever, because they just bore me. Yeah, I agree with Roses and Grapes. Scribbly Otter said, there are a lot of them, but one of the smaller things that really grinds my gears is when every character somehow has his signature scent. I already know I'm going to agree with this. He smelled like pine and freshly fallen snow. Delicious, scrumptious. Dude, he hasn't showered in a month. No, he doesn't. And you're sure not going to be relishing in the smell whenever you're cuddled up with him. And half the descriptions never even make sense. They're like the way men's soaps are labeled. Literally, I agree. I see these weird descriptions in romance books all the time, and it's always bothered me. Half the time, I don't even know what they mean. What does that smell even smell like? It's not happening with my imagination. It kind of takes me out of the story because I'm like, what? What does that mean? How do they come up with such weirdly specific sense? Maybe he's right and they're just going into Dollar Tree and reading the soap labels, because what are they even saying? Who is thinking these things when they're smelling people? No one is thinking these things. If I am standing next to someone and I think they smell like pomegranates and rose bushes, I don't even know. No, like it wouldn't happen. That's just so weird. And the characters have to be like half dog, half human. With those strong noses, they have to be coming up with these descriptions. It's wild. Definitely agree with this one. I hate when everybody's into the main character, like full on horny. Detective by Arthur Haley is an ultimate power fantasy, and I died inside a bit while reading. Yeah, I don't mind it in reverse harems because that's the point, but in love triangles, love squares, love hexagons, it is annoying. What is even going on? Especially when the person they're all fawning over, going goo goo gaga over, is the most bland person ever, no personality, and everyone's in love with her or him. It's so unrealistic. I can't suspend my disbelief. It's not my favorite, personally. Big Monkey 77 doesn't like when people don't use an Oxford comma. I have a confession. I'm someone. I don't use the Oxford comma. It's not necessary. It's not grammatically incorrect. If it's not needed, I'm not going to use it. Why would I do that? Why would I type out that key or write out the letter, or not letter, what's it called, symbol, when I don't need to? A waste of time. So deal with it. I'm not going to do it, and I won't, and you can't stop me from not using it. Oof. Strap in. This is going to be a long one. Bitter Peaches said, petty conflict between two women over a man. Oh, yes. Yup. I predominantly read romance, and I find it irritating when there's a side character who is attracted to the main male character who acts like a mean girl to the main female character. I suppose the catty female character is supposed to serve as a foil to the FMC. When we read about the conflicts, we are to assume the side character is a bleep, slutty and manipulative, and the FMC is pure, sympathetic, and strong. It's an overused trope that's lazy and leans on misogyny. I swear I know what misogyny is and I know how to read it. Misogynistic characterizations. I can't read. I can't read out loud, apparently. Leans on misogynistic characterizations of women. I got it. I'd rather see a well-developed friendship between two women, or maybe a side character has feelings for the MMC, but she's a lovely person, or maybe the side character with feelings is a man instead of a woman. There are other ways to introduce conflict without writing about a cat fight. Agreed. Took the words right out of my mouth. Again, I hated it on Wattpad in middle school, and I hate it now in published books. Why is this still a thing? Everyone's all women supporting women, and then they write this? No. I already talked about Bully by Penelope Douglas in here, but I'm going to bring it up again because this applies. All the girls in Bully were fighting over Jared, of all people. Jared, who manipulated and treated all the women in his life like dirt. Why did anyone want this man? Surely there were other hot men at the school with better morals. I'm pretty sure Tate got into a physical altercation with one of the girls, and Tate and her best friend, her BFF for life, were having arguments over him. It's one thing to be some girl you don't even know about your BFF, come on. And she talks in the second paragraph when she talks about alternatives. One good example of this is The Risk by Elle Kennedy. I feel like it handled the whole other woman crushing on the hero thing so much better than most books, because the other woman wasn't some mean girl. She was kind of nice. And yet, why not make it a man who is into the man? I can't think of a single book off the top of my head that did that. We need to see more. Give us the diversity, please. For me, it's the hero heroine who is dead set on protecting his family, clan, city, planet, whatever, that he can hardly think of anything else. Oh, but wait, along comes a love interest from whom they fall for hard. Yeah, Caraval by Stephanie Garber does this. Scarlett's only personality trait in the beginning is wanting to protect her sister. It's literally the only thing she thought about. And then she falls for Julian, and the sister she was dead set on saving becomes an afterthought. I still love Caraval, though. That was a 5-star read for me. I thought it was so fun. But that is a book that does this. I just wish authors were more consistent with their characterizations. Like Chris and Becca Ritchie, they're so consistent in their characterizations in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I'm reading that right now, so that's why it's in my head and I just brought it up. But Rose, for example, the most important people in her life were her sisters. She was all about protecting them. And after she fell in love, Connor became the most important person in her life, but she still prioritized her sister's happiness and safety and went out of her way to ensure they were taken care of. Characters can fall in love and still have the values beyond their romantic interests. You know, they can have character development and shift their priorities slightly, but at the end, I still want them to be the same core person, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm not making sense. I feel like half the time in these videos I'm not making sense. I'm kind of regretting this video right now because my opinions. Not good at communicating how I feel verbally. In my head, I'm making lots of sense. Verbally, no sense. I hope you guys are still following along. Fantasy and sci-fi names with random apostrophes to make them look more exotic. Finally, one I disagree with. I feel like I've been agreeing with everything and just reiterating what other people are saying in different words and examples. But finally, I can say something that differs from what the original poster is saying. So I disagree with this one. I think it's fun. I think it's a little different. It's fun. It's a fantasy, so why do the names have to be like they would be in real life? That's lame. I like the apostrophes, make the names cool, unique. It makes everything more fun, I think. Bumbletown is a hater of romances, especially teen romances. Disagree. Romance is my favorite genre, and I actually avoid books without romance like the plague. I read it every once in a while, but I want romance all the time, everywhere. I'm a hopeless romantic. Very hopeless. So hopeless. And I read teen romances all the time, especially in fantasy. Why fantasy romance is my everything. It's so good. It's so good. This person, maybe they just haven't read the right one, because I guarantee if they read Powerless by Lauren Roberts, they would be changing their tune. That book is so good. It's so good. When you can tell the author was writing with the thesaurus handy because they use such weird words to describe things, I agree. This is my least favorite type of writing. If you like to challenge yourself by reading these books or have no problems reading this stuff because you're smarter than me, awesome. Proud of you. I know this type of writing works for a lot of people, so no shade to the authors or readers who enjoy it, but it's just not for me at all. I'm reading for fun. I'm not reading to learn more vocab words. I mean, obviously that's a plus. Every once in a while, if they use a word I don't know, that doesn't bother me at all. That's fine. I'll just Google it, whatever, no big deal. But if it's like 10 words on every page that I don't know, no thank you. No thank you. I'm just gonna go return the book to the library now and never touch it again. The book that comes to mind right now is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I had to keep rereading sentences and paragraphs because I would get so confused on what she was trying to say, because she'd say it in such a complicated, unusual way, and it just got really annoying for me very fast. I'm reading for fun, and those books make me feel like I'm reading a textbook, which is not fun at all. But some people, works for them, like I said. But These Violent Delights is so popular, and the plot is really cool. I would recommend it if you don't mind this type of writing style. When the character's point of view changes halfway through the chapter, it's so jarring, and I've stopped reading books for it. Wow, I didn't realize this bothered people so much. It does kind of bother me, but not to that extent. I would not stop reading a book over that. It doesn't bother me quite that much, but I don't love it. It kind of pulls me out of the story, but then I'm right back in it. Not a big deal to me. But I do prefer when it's the authors just make it into a different chapter. Why are we putting 2 point of views in the same chapter? Just separate them. Yeah. 1 or 2 page chapters. I actually like this, especially in thrillers, because with thrillers, I want to be turning the pages quicker because it adds to the suspense. I feel like when I'm flipping the pages super fast, I don't know why. It just makes the experience better. And I also feel like it motivates me to read longer when there's short chapters because I'll be like, okay, one more chapter before bed. But then if the chapter is 2 pages, I'll read another one and another one and then another one, and all of a sudden I've finished the book. So it motivates me to read more. So I do like them. With super long chapters, I feel like I get overwhelmed a lot easier. Not my favorite. When they describe a character as being 6'2", then at another point saying he towered over everybody, like, question mark, question mark, question mark. He's towering over your 5'1", but, and that's it, fam. 6'2" isn't gonna make him tower over that many people. Literally, I've noticed this in so many romance books, and it doesn't really bother me. I'll just overlook it because it's not a big deal, but I have noticed this, and you are absolutely right. Ended one. And oh, that's actually perfect, because ended one is ending this video. This is the last. I was gonna say confession, that's not the right word. Book ick. That's the word I was looking for. This is the last book ick I have to read. If you stuck around this long, you're wild. But thank you. Thank you for listening to me talk and articulate very badly my own opinions. I'm so bad at speaking. In my mind, I speak so well. And then verbally, a disaster. If you can tolerate me, thank you so much. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.